Okay, want to welcome you into my basement. Have separating some stuff. We're going to introduce Dutch oven lasagna, and it is Sunday afternoon at 12 something, and it's 90 degrees. Feels like 99 out there. So I thought I'd do this little tiny segment first to introduce it, and I'll put it together and we'll get out in Dutch ovens in a little while. So when you're doing lasagna, you want to really break it down into three groups because you layer lasagna, so you prepare it per layer. So one of the things, let's start with the meat and vegetable layer first. We got hamburger, we got mild sausage, and the best part of the lasagna, in my opinion, is I buy some links. I buy it hot. I use this just because it's easy to get. Once I get this cooked a little bit, I just take a pair of scissors and I cut them into little sections. We've got mushrooms, onions, peppers, of course, traditional sauce and your spices to take care of things. That's kind of layered. You're going to cook all this stuff together, right? In one Dutch oven. That's kind of one segment. Then we kind of move over to here, and we have our cheese section. And if you bring the camera up, you can show them that there's a little bit of eggs in there. So we have our ricotta, we have our mozzarella, and we have our Parmesan. And we're going to mix this all together with the eggs. One recipe says with eggs and one recipe says without, and I got these out of Scout magazine or some Scout. This is all Boy Scout stuff. The eggs help the cheeses mix together better from what I understand, but I am not any type of a professional. And then we got your other layer, which is strictly lasagna. Well, they're dry, so when you put them in, you're going to start with a layer of lasagna on the bottom of your Dutch oven. Today we're going to do, I got a 14-inch Dutch oven. I use liners. My kids have a hard time buying things for me for my birthday, so a lot of times I get liners. It makes it lots easier than just doing foils, and I'm too cheap to buy them myself. So you're going to do a layer of lasagna on the very bottom, dry lasagna. You're going to do a meat layer. You're going to do a cheese layer. You're going to do another layer of lasagna noodles. Then you're going to do a meat layer, a cheese layer, and another layer of lasagna, and then a meat layer and a cheese layer. That's so we'll kind of build that a little bit later on, and get them in the Dutch oven. We're looking at anywhere between 40 and 50 minutes once we get the proper heat, and we'll talk about charcoal here in a little bit. So welcome to the introduction. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, thanks. So let's get going further here. First, let me introduce you to my backyard. My boys built me this several years ago. So we got an oven here that we do some pizza bread or etc. It's a little difficult to work with as far as temperature is concerned. We do all of the Dutch oven stuff here. I have a grill over here, and we have a fire pit here, so we spend a lot of time out here. The rest of my yard, I have an okay garden here. We're about done with the squash for the year. I'll be pulling that out and probably putting in some cabbage so we can see how that works. And then some of you know about our canoes because you've used them. I have the trailers torn apart right now. And but anyway, anybody needs to use canoes that are here, you just can't transport them unless you transport them yourself. And somebody gave me a Boy Scout sign that I need to burn because it's out of date. Anyway, we spend a lot of time in the backyard here. So back to what we were talking about earlier. I started my coals. All of you know about that. To get them started, I just usually use the bag for my lighter. As I fill it up, I tear it down, and that's enough paper to get it going, and then that way you don't have to use any of that stinky gas that you pour on top of the charcoal that will disflavor your food. We want to run this Dutch oven about 350 degrees. They tell us that you use two of your charcoal will equal 25 degrees. So in this particular case then we need to have 28 coals, and since we're baking we want to do the equal amount of coals on the top and the bottom. Charcoal isn't what it used to be, it doesn't last as long, and it's even questionable whether 2 coals will give you 25 degrees anymore, but you just adjust accordingly. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, the first thing that you're going to put in the Dutch oven is your lasagna noodles unbaked. In fact, the only thing that really has to cook here in this lasagna as we're cooking it is the noodles, because we've already done the mix. I'll uncover that and show that to you now. So that's completely cooked, and we got our cheese that we're going to add on top of that here in a minute. We're doing 3 layers here, so we need to divide our quantities as good as possible, and so we want 1/3 of this to go over the top of these noodles. And it's pretty easy to estimate when you get 1/3 of this, because you see the level going down in the pan. So that's probably about 1/3 of it. Now when we get to our cheese mixture that we're going to do here, it might be a little bit more difficult. And we need to mention that, of course, safety is really important, your cleanliness. That's the first thing that we teach scouts. But we're going to take about 1/3 of this. The bowl is not square in this particular, so it's a little bit more difficult to come out with exactly 1/3 on this. But you know, after it's all said and done, it almost doesn't matter, because it all kind of comes together. Okay, I am going to guess that that is about 1/3. And now we're going to go and we're going to put noodles on top of this. So you'll see that there's a few spaces that don't cover real well, and so what you do is you just end up breaking the noodles into pieces so that you can kind of cover the whole area. And then we're going to do the very same thing. We're going to layer that. We're going to put a cheese layer, another layer of noodles. We're going to go with the last 1/3 of the filling and the last 1/3 with the cheese. And we'll stop at this point in time and not bore you with that whole effect, because it's just repetitive, and we'll come back at the end. Okay, it's time for the coals. We're going to dump approximately 14 coals out here.
Try to put these evenly. With 96 degrees out and these coals, I feel like it's about 200 degrees right now. I'm going to put a few more coals in 14. These are getting a little bit small, so they're not going to last as long and not quite as hot. Okay, we're going to come back in about 15 minutes and we're going to do some rotation on this Dutch oven. So we'll talk to you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. In real time, it's about 45 minutes later. These coals are ready to come off. Every 15 minutes, what I've been doing is turning this about 30 degrees each direction, like so, so like the coals will cook everything evenly. And so let's just, before that, and while I also was waiting, I went to my garden and I pulled out a few things. So we're gonna take some of these peppers tonight and we are going to put in some cream cheese and wrap them in bacon, put them in the oven, see how they turn out. A couple of years ago, I get all my starter plants up off 64 and between here and Wake Forest. And I got cherry tomatoes and I ended up with these purple ones. And let me tell you, they are absolutely so sweet. You can't believe how good. They're twice as good as the cherry tomato, the red ones. Okay, let's give you a look at what's going on here. There we go. There is the lasagna. Now, we plan on eating in about an hour and 15 minutes. I did that on purpose because if you go to cut this now, everything just kind of runs to the middle. So we're gonna let this cool down, take all the coals off, cool down, and we'll come back in about an hour and give you one more shot and show you what it looks like in the middle. Thanks. Okay, it has been in about an hour and 15 minutes since we took it off. The top is light enough you can, well, it's a little bit warm. But we're gonna do this. Now normally in a restaurant what they do is they cook this stuff the day before, put it in the refrigerator, cool it down, and then reheat it when you're served. So we're just gonna see here what this might look like. And here we go. That is almost perfect. Delicious to the taste. So welcome to Dutch oven lasagna with a couple little extras on the plate. And we thank you for listening to this segment.